Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jagana, Jaya Jagana, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pariyachakacharya Ashtarashata Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Oh glories to the assembled devotees. Oh glories to the assembled devotees. Oh glories to the assembled devotees. Oh glories to Shri Guru and Guranga. Oh glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Charam. Oh, sorry. I don't know it like that. I'm trying my best, but every time I have to speak it in front of other people, I forget it. But Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Yasam Tato Jayatu Dhiraye Nasta Prayeshu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Thank you. Okay, so today we're continuing with Canto 5, Chapter 15, Text 7, which I guess this is prose, right? So, and I have divided it into parts for me to be easy to read it, but we will not repeat it. It's a very long verse, so unless you have some other suggestion. Okay. Savai swadharmenam prajapalana poshanam prinano palalana anushasanam lakshanam enevivadinacha Bhagavati Maha Purushe Paravare Brahmani Sarvatmanarpita Paramata Lakshena Brahmavicharanu Sevaya Padita Bhagavad Bhakti Yogena Chabikshna Shach Paribhavatati Shudamatir Upara Uparatanatmaya Atmani Svayam Apalabhyamanam Brahmatmana Bhavapi Nirabhimanam Evanim Ajugupat. Word by word translation. Saha, that King Gaya. Vai, indeed. Swadharmana, by his own duty. Prajapalana, of protecting the subjects. Poshana, of maintaining them. Prinana, of making them happy in all respects. Upalana, of treating them as sons. Anushasana, of sometimes chastising them for their mistakes. Lakshanena, by the symptoms of a king. Idyadina, by performing the ritualistic ceremonies as recommended in the Vedas. Cha, also. Bhagavati, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu. Mahapurusha, the chief of all living entities. Para-avare, the source of all living entities. From the highest Lord Brahma to the lowest, like the insignificant ants. Brahmani, unto Parabrahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vasudeva, sorry, I don't see very well. Sarvatmana, in all respects. Arpita, of being surrendered. Paramartha Lakshanena, with spiritual symptoms. Brahmavit, of self-realized saintly devotees. Charana Anusevaya, by the service of the lotus feet. Apadita, achieved. Bhagavad Bhakti Yogena, by the practice of devotional service to the Lord. Cha, also. Abhikshana Shaha, continuously. Paribhavita, saturated. Atishuddhamatihi, whose completely pure consciousness Full realization that the body and the mind are separate from the soul. Uparata anatmye, wherein identification with material things was stopped. Atmani, in his own self. Swayam, personally. Upalabhyamana, being realized. Brahmatmanubhavaha, perception of his own position as the Supreme Spirit. Api, although. Nirabhimanaha, without false prestige. Eva, in this way. Avanim, the whole world. Ajugupat, ruled strictly according to the Vedic principles. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Sesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. King Gaya gave full protection and security to the citizens so that their personal property would not be disturbed by undesirable elements. He also saw that there was sufficient food to feed all the citizens. This is called Poshana. He would sometimes distribute gifts to the citizens to satisfy them. This is called Prinana. He would sometimes call meetings and satisfy the citizens with sweet words. This is called Upalalana. He would also give them good instructions on how to become first-class citizens. This is called Anushasana. Such were the characteristics of King Gaya's royal order. Besides all this, King Gaya was a householder who strictly observed the rules and regulations of household life. He performed sacrifices and was an unalloyed pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was called Mahapurusha because as a king, he gave the citizens all facilities, and as a householder, he executed all his duties, so that at the end, he became a strict devotee of the Supreme Lord. As a devotee, he was always ready to give respect to other devotees and to engage in the devotional service of the Lord. This is the Bhakti Yoga process. Due to all these transcendental activities, King Gaya was always free from the bodily conception. He was full in Brahman realization, and consequently he was always jubilant. He did not experience material lamentation. Although he was perfect in all respects, he was not proud, nor was he anxious to rule the kingdom. Purport. As Lord Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, when he descends on earth, he has two types of business: to give protection to the faithful and annihilate the demons. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. Since the king is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is sometimes called Naradeva. That is, the Lord as a human being. According to Vedic injunctions, he is worshipped as God on the material platform. And when I read this, the only example today that I know of is the king or queen of England. They are considered as well to be the representatives of God. I watched the series about it. I'm always interested in history. So anyway, she is anointed by the priest in the church, and she's responsible only to God for her duties, actually. So that was actually in a lot of monarchies like that. But Queen Elizabeth, of whom I watched the documentary, was very dutiful. But some, for example, kings of France, they misused their positions of being the absolute monarch. So therefore they had revolutions. So this is just a digression of something in modern times that we can relate to. So as a representative of the Supreme Lord, the king had the duty to protect the citizens in a perfect way so that they would not be anxious for food and protection, and so that they would be jubilant. The king would supply everything for their benefit, and because of this, he would levy taxes. If the king or government otherwise do you know how to read this word? Levies taxes, levy levies taxes on the citizens, he becomes responsible for the sinful activities of the citizens. In Kali Yuga, monarchy is abolished because the kings themselves are subjected to the influence of Kali Yuga. It is understood from the Ramayana that when Bibhishana became friends with Lord Ramachandra, he promised that if by chance or will he broke the laws of friendship with Lord Ramachandra, he would become a Brahmana or a king in Kali Yuga. In this age, as Babishana indicated, both Brahmanas and kings are in a wretched condition. Actually, there are no kings or Brahmanas in this age, and due to their absence, the whole world is in a chaotic condition and is always in distress. Compared to present standards, Maharaj Gaya was a true representative of Lord Vishnu. Therefore, he was known as Mahapurusha. I just wanted to add something here, and then I'll continue with the prayers. But I forgot now. Yeah, I know. That's why Srila Prabhupada wanted to. He was always saying that even though, of course, we have Varnashrama in our society, but basically the first motivation for establishing ISKCON was to create Brahmanas so that they can go into the society and educate the society and give an example so that they are actually leaders of the society. And that is still a wish of Srila Prabhupada because we did not accomplish that yet. So we will see in this lecture how that can be accomplished because King Gaia is giving the perfect example of a leader, so what a leader should be and what a leader should do. So before I start talking about that, I will say some prayers. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you very much. I ask for your blessings that we can learn all together something from this verse. And it's actually quite nice. So talking about the duties of ideal king, and actually it answers the question, what is real greatness in leadership? And it's very practical for all of us. So every one of us, in a way, by following the process of Bhakti Yoga is a leader, because a leader means that he teaches by example. So that's the instruction for all of us, that we should teach others by our example and be good examples to inspire others in spiritual life. But of course, some people are in various types of positions. So here we have King Gaia, who is an ideal king. And he's actually giving an example of what Krishna and Srila Prabhupada explain in the Bhagavad Gita. And that is, for example, from the verse 248, that we should perform, actually Krishna says to Arjuna, perform your duty equipoised, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. So basically, King Gaia is performing yoga in his activities. He is performing his duties and he is not attached to it. And because of that, he is manifesting perfect qualities of a pure devotee. So, and because it's so nicely explained in the verse, we will go maybe a little bit into details of everything that is said in the verse. So, the verse highlights four essential duties of a leader, and which are expressed in Sanskrit terms as poshana, which means nourishment or protection. Then, prinana, satisfaction through generosity. Upalalana, gentle dealings, and anushasana, guidance and discipline. And later on, with performing these duties, he's actually also uh, emanating, or expressing spiritual qualities that he has as a devotee. So this poshana is a good example for us wherever we are, whether we are, I don't know, bosses in some companies, whether we are parents, whether we are temple presidents or whatever we are. I don't know. I'm a management of the shop. I'm managing the shop, so it also refers to me in a way. It refers to everyone, whatever role we have that has some leadership qualities. So, but a king as such, and especially persons who are in the government and who are in the leading positions, they should provide security to citizens and free them from fear and give them access to food. So basically material things. And you will see that material and spiritual goes side by side with King Gaia. So he is instructing them into spiritual principles of how to lead actually a successful life on this earth. But he never neglects the material part. So that's very important, because we need to actually satisfy people whom we are leading in all respects, especially if they depend on us. And someone who is in a position of a king, or who is in a position of someone who is leading a government, for example, the Shastras also sometimes explain it in that way, that he's a father, or a father in this sense. So he has to take care of the people who are under him as a father, considering them their children. Not like that they're, sometimes parents and the relationship between the parents and the children is that I have to take care of my kids because they don't know what to do. The citizens also sometimes don't know what to do, so they need a leader. But also they do know what to do, so we need to also respect that part. But the duty is still to provide this security. So that's why in a state as such, we all have these departments that are trying to do that. So even today, these principles are something that we can see in the society. In Kali Yuga, definitely it's not perfectly performed, but it's there. So leaders should ensure basic welfare, safety, and health care for the citizens. And even though it's not perfect in states in the world, it also depends on the state and on the government. I would say that actually Switzerland has a very good government compared to other countries in the world, because it really gives you some kind of security. I mean, as I know of, and I am, an immigrant in Switzerland, still don't know the language, but I can see that even when someone is very poor, there's a mechanism of how to take care of that person. And of course, that exists in other countries, but not in this capacity. And of course, it depends whether the country is rich or whether the country is poor. But this is a good example of how to take care of the citizens. So in that sense, Switzerland is a good example in that sense. Even though, of course, everything here you have to pay for. So it is expensive, but on the other hand, really provides you with things that are really not accessible in other countries. So Srila Prabhupada often emphasized that a good government should ensure no one goes hungry. So therefore, he also taught by example by creating Food for Life programs. And we have them throughout ISKCON in many countries. And they are actually fulfilling the statement of Srila Prabhupada that in the presence of ISKCON, nobody should go hungry. But so basically, it can be sometimes said that how can we provide money for these things? But people donate, and this is a good cause, and also Krishna takes care. So I think we should always try to follow that example, that we should always feed people regardless of donations and so on, and it will return to us in maybe ways that are not directly visible, but my experience is that Krishna always takes care. So, and for us in our life, we can take this example like for also our family members. So we should take care of them in this way. So the second duty is prinana, satisfaction through generosity, which means offering satisfaction by giving gifts, sharing resources, and showing kindness. And this is something that is the 6 loving exchanges between the devotees. They, for example, emphasize this principle. So we have it in a leader, but we also have it between devotees. So devotees, how do they associate with each other and how do they create relationship between each other is by giving gifts and receiving gifts, and also offering prasadam, accepting prasadam, and opening the mind and accepting instructions, which of course we can see in this verse. So this is also one of the duties of the king, to give good instructions to his citizens. So in a way, we can see how in this relationship of the king and his praja, or the people who live in his kingdom, which doesn't include only human beings, it refers to the plants, animals, and so on. So actually a good government, a good leader takes care of everyone and considers them a part of the family. Even in Vedic society, animals were considered to be as members of the family. So leaders should support citizens selflessly without exploiting them. So the example of that is King Rantideva, who will be described in Canto 9, Chapter 21. So I got a little bit about him. So he is remembered as a saintly king who embodied extreme compassion, generosity, and devotion to the Lord. He lived a very simple life depending on whatever providence brought. He never accumulated wealth or collected resources for his maintenance, but he accepted whatever came as the Lord's mercy. And then after fasting, once he was fasting, and after fasting for 48 days, he was finally about to break his fast with a small amount of food and water. Just as he was about to eat, a series of guests arrived, a brahmana, then a shudra, then a chandala, and finally a thirsty dog. Each time, Ratnideva offered them his food and water until he was left with nothing for himself. And he prayed in one verse, 9:21:12. I do not pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the 8th perfection of mystic yoga, nor for salvation from repeated birth and death. I want only to stay among all the living entities and suffer all distress on their behalf, and that so that they may be freed from suffering. So that's also quite interesting, how we should have this attitude. Sometimes it's very difficult to have this attitude, especially if you are in a leadership position and you don't like some people. so I mean, and then to be selfless towards someone you maybe think that this person doesn't deserve. So it's a good actually test for us and for our heart to see like our attachments and our wrong opinions about things, and also how we should really start, I mean we should always do it, not as leaders, but really start to look at others as spirit souls. At least, I mean, we're here trying to practice that we are spirit souls and that all of you are spirit souls. So whatever you manifest that maybe I don't like or I like, it's just something that comes from your nature, which is conditioned, material nature, conditioned nature, which actually is not you. And also we should trust the process, that by chanting and by actually giving to the person, there will be a change. Bless you. And I was also looking, I like to watch movies, and I watched Nrsimhadev now, and And also, like Prahlad Maharaj is definitely an example of a person who was very selfless and who always cared for the benefit of others, prayed for his father who wanted to kill him, and even when Lord Nrsimhadev wanted to give him benedictions, he said he doesn't want anything because he comes from the family of the demons. So therefore, definitely he should not receive anything, but he just worries for others and he wants their liberation. So it's interesting to just notice how these qualities are not only something we should look for in a leader, but these are the qualities of the devotee. So in a way, that's why Srila Prabhupada wanted to establish the society of Brahmanas, because Brahmanas also have these wonderful qualities, so that then when these Brahmana qualities go into the world and occupy the positions in the world, they emanate these kind of examples and inspire others. So we can also see that King Gaia is a householder, so not many members of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness will be forever brahmacharis or brahmacharinis or sannyasis. That's a minority of the society. The majority is the grihastas. So this is a very good verse that teaches grihastas how they should act in the world. And also to see that whatever we do, wherever we are, we should exhibit these examples that of these qualities of how to perform the duty and how to be merciful towards others, as given in the example of King Gaia. So, what was the outcome of Ratni Deva's generosity? The guests who came there were actually demigods who were testing him, and they were testing his compassion. So, having passed the test, Ratni Deva was blessed. But he only wished for selfless service and to give compassion to others and devotion to the Lord. So that's again an example of a devotee and also a good king who, even though he receives material opulence and many blessings, he wants to, by compassion, give it to others. And then the third duty that the king Gaia was performing, he was gentle in his dealings. So that means he spoke kindly, he engaged in dialogue, and he treated people with respect. So this is also relevant for us in everyday life, because effective leadership requires good communication, listening, and building trust, especially in today's society, where people don't want to be controlled, definitely. And also, like devotees in ISKCON, they don't want to be controlled. They want to be controlled by love. So that's something that my spiritual master talks about, that you can't, that he doesn't even want to. I mean, he's a guru and he has disciples, and he always says that he's not, he doesn't want so many followers, or he's not interested in that, and he's also not interested in controlling others. Like, he just wants to show this control by love, because that's what Krishna actually shows by his example. So the only way we can control the Supreme Personality of Godhead is if we develop prema. So even God himself gives us an example of how he wants to be controlled. And we are parts and parcels of Krishna. We, in quality, have the same nature as Krishna, so therefore we have the same tendency. We want to be controlled, but we want to be controlled by love, not that someone tells us always what to do. So when we are leaders, we have to understand that. First of all, we have to be compassionate towards other people, even though sometimes we don't understand why and what other people do. And with love and kindness and gentleness, we should speak to them and try to maybe show them some other ways in which they can do certain things and so on. So it's very important. This is, of course, connected with the Bhagavad Gita, verse 17-15, which says, "Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature. So that's how we should speak to other people. Of course, if we are a leader, sometimes we need to correct others, but we should also do it in a gentle way. The only person that can actually be whatever he wants to be is Guru towards us, because he's a representative of Krishna and we have surrendered our to him. Of course, Guru can be a Diksha or a Shiksha, which means Diksha, who initiated you, or Shiksha, whom you accepted to receive his instructions. So basically, they can correct you and criticize you. But otherwise, it's not our duty to correct and criticize others. We should work on ourselves. And if there's a problem, we should, of course, communicate and try to establish a dialogue, respectful dialogue with this other person. So that's how Vaishnavas act. They approach each other from the platform of respect. So always respect. Even though sometimes it can be hard for us because we also have egos, we're not pure. But this is our austerity, and this is something that we have to practice. So we should not speak in a way to agitate the minds of others. Of course, when a teacher speaks, that's what Prabhupada says in the purport, he can speak the truth for the instruction of his students. But such a teacher should not speak to those who are not his students if he will agitate their minds. This is a penance as far as talking is concerned. Besides that, one should not talk nonsense. The process of speaking in spiritual circles is to say something upheld by the scriptures. One should at once quote from scriptural authority to back up what he is saying. At the same time, such talk should be very pleasurable to hear. By such discussions, one may derive the highest benefit and elevate human society. There is a limitless stock of Vedic literature, and one should study it. This is called the penance of speech. So this is how we should try to practice bhakti yoga as well. Given by the example of King Gaya. The fourth duty that King Gaya, the fourth duty that he executed was anushasana, that he gave guidance and discipline, so providing instruction and discipline to uplift citizens. So we need to combine the compassion with necessary firmness. The example of another king who gave instructions to his citizens was Lord Ramachandra. He listened daily to the concerns of the citizens, and then he gave them instructions, but also he always led by the example, because his duty was to uplift Dharma. So therefore, by his example, he lived the Dharma, even at his own inconvenience. For example, when he renounced Sita, just to give an example to the citizens. But so this is an example of how leader, even though it may sometimes be painful for him, something, he will still do it to give good example for others. So true leadership sometimes means taking difficult decisions for the welfare of all. And the example in the modern days would be, I mean, it's very simplistic, this example, but it's a good one, that a coach who disciplines a player, not in anger, but to bring out their best. But you know that they can be like a little bit harsh if you have to be disciplined in whatever you are doing, if you want to achieve results. So in the same way, we are also given instructions in our spiritual life so that we can achieve certain results. And we are disciplined if we go astray from, for example, our gurus. So these are the four duties that were performed by King Gaya. So I will just repeat them. Poshana, nourishment and protection. Prinana, satisfaction through generosity. Upalalana, gentle dealings. And Anushasana, guidance or discipline. And as we said, beside those duties, he also emanated spiritual qualities, which because he was called Mahapurusha. So though he was a householder and a king, he remained a pure devotee. He performed sacrifices not for material gain, but for the Lord's pleasure. He was free in everything that he did, he was freed from the bodily conception. He was always joyful and he never lamented. He was humble because despite his perfection, he was not proud or power hungry. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai, Shishigura Nitai ki jai. And he embodied something that's very important for us, and that is it's called servant leadership. So we as leaders are actually not leaders, we are servant. And the one who is the first leader in the society, he actually should be the greatest servant. Even though we say that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and he's the enjoyer, that's very much true, but he serves in many ways. And all his expansions, they're servants of the first Swayam Bhagavan Krishna. Because it is said that his first expansion, Lord Balaram, he's actually the best servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he maintains all the spiritual and material universes, and he's also the first guru, and he's, I don't know, his chair, his bed, he serves him in so many ways. So we can see that the one who has the most power, he is actually the best servant and the biggest servant. So that should be our example. So that's what King Gaia also gave as an example. So he was the first in the society. He had all the power, he had all the opulence, he had everything, but still he was the greatest servant in the society because of all his activities. And because of that, he was detached from what he was doing. He was not, because he was doing this duty in this way with this consciousness and mentality, he didn't consider himself as a body, but as a spirit soul. So if we act in this way, similar way, we try in whatever position we are, we will also be successful. So, Bhagavad Gita 3:19 says, therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment, one attains the Supreme. So he tried to also give an example of that. Real greatness lies in humility and devotion, not in power. Then Srimad Bhagavatam 1:2-13 also says that, O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to the case divisions and orders of life is to please the personality of Godhead. So these are just examples from the Shastras of how to act in this world. And when he gave the instructions to others, this fourth duty, this is something that Prithu Maharaj also did. And that means that he instructed them how to live a spiritual life, especially by emphasizing what is written in the Bhagavad Gita 9:27. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you give in charity, and whatever penances you undergo, they should be done for me, O son of Kunti. So that's the example of King Gaia, and these are his instructions. So, for our reflection, we can ask ourselves, how can we bring kindness into our leadership, at work, home, or in our community? And might also ask yourself, when I'm serving or whatever I'm performing, whatever duty I'm performing, am I serving others with humility, or am I just seeking recognition? So, to end, leadership is not about control, it's about service and devotion. Every role, if offered to Krishna, becomes perfect, so in whatever position you are. Like King Gaia, we can all become great souls, Mahapurushas, by living as humble, devoted servants in whatever position Krishna puts us in. So that's all I have for today. So if you have comments and questions, you're welcome to say, share. Maybe you want to use the microphone if someone has some. Because other people complained at the time that they didn't hear you I try to repeat what you said, but maybe they're not patient to wait.
Thank you so much for this wonderful lecture. Um, I was just reminded of the devotee care seminar by, I think their names were Damodar Prabhu and Madhusudan Prabhu. And they were actually telling so many nice things also that you were mentioning, that everyone is actually a leader, either a smaller one or a leader for many people, and that we should try to take up this responsibility in the way that is possible for us. And the point that was quite important for me also is that everyone should be allowed to render service, and that we should really be eager to engage everyone in service. And I think after Nishinga Chaturdasi, Bhakti Lavya Prabhu was here, and he was like, oh, there were so many devotees, and now, like a day later, nobody's there. And yeah, maybe we can all think of it like how to engage more devotees in the service to the Lord. Of course, if you're at home, you're also rendering service. It's not that you can just render service in temple or so, but yeah, that this is a very big part of devotee care, and leadership has a lot to do with devotee care. And I think it could be done more. We need more, and maybe you can elaborate on that as well.
Yeah, like when you go to book distribution, you are not selling the books, you're selling yourself. That's what I learned from my own experience, and also from experience of a lot of Sankirtan devotees. So basically, the people, of course, some of them will maybe be interested in what is in the books, but majority will take the book because they liked something about you. So that's why people will stay. I mean, not that's why, but the same principle is why people will stay in the temple if they like you. I mean, especially when someone is new or even old devotee, they want to be somewhere where they feel cared for. That's why it's devotee care, but in a personal way, that you see them, that you ask them about them, that you don't throw at them 1,000 rules and regulations which they have to fulfill and so on. Like, you have to understand sometimes where people are. Like, for example, if you speak to me, I will give myself, you know that I know the rules, and you know that I know how to behave, for example, but if you take, I don't know, someone from the street and you bring him in the temple and you want him to do the service, you can't throw at him all the rules and regulations. You have to be tolerant a little bit. Like, you don't expect of them for at least some period of time that they know things. You don't go crazy if they, I don't know, contaminate something that should be clean, and so on. So, because the perfect example. Okay, sorry about that. Sorry about that. So yeah, like there are many examples. Like if you want people to come for the festivals and serve, you should not have such big standards. Like for example, for garlands, why should, like my mom, she came here. She's not a devotee, and I wanted her to do service. And the only thing at that moment what was available was doing garlands. And this is something that I'm speaking about that to other devotees, so they know this. This what I will say now. Because like in Vrindavan, when you go there, you buy a garland from the street vendors, right? So you're not wearing a sari, you're not perfectly clean, and I don't know what, and then you offer it to the deity. Of course, there should be standards, but if someone is new and you want to engage him in the service, then forget about that standard, because you know that if you do the garland, even though the standards that other people follow here in the temple are not followed, you know that you can purify the garland and put it on the deities. It doesn't matter whether you did it in a sari or you didn't do it in the sari. You anyway have to purify it. So that's how you, with love, engage other people. Sometimes you remove the rules and regulations, and then step by step you introduce to other people, and that's how you bring them closer. You don't overwhelm them with these things. You are very kind to them, and that's what I wanted to say, Prabhupada. Of course, when the temples were established, there are certain standards. There are standards here. But at the very beginnings, he treated everyone with love, and little by little, he taught them things. So this is an example for us, how we should teach other people. And maybe if something is not possible in the temple, maybe we can do it in some other, let's say it, surrounding. But also what I have noticed in Switzerland, that devotees here are temple-centered. You don't have so many programs outside of the temple. You have 2 temples in Switzerland, Langenthal and Zurich, and that's all home programs. Maybe once a year someone makes a home program. And also, do you do kirtans outside of the temple? You don't do kirtans outside the temple. I mean, Harikata and I also, we use the ashram, so maybe that's also not a good idea in winter tour, because maybe some people don't like it, but it's just a building, so it's not even the temple. But I'm just saying, like, what are you doing to go out? And engage people. And then, I mean, this temple is very, very empty, actually. And especially now that I came back, after 3 months, it's more emptier than when I left. So I'm sorry, but it is. So maybe you should ask yourself, how you're contributing to Krishna consciousness in Switzerland, and also to understand it's not about you. And also, sometimes, I mean, I'm sorry, I know I should maybe, everyone has their own love for things, like for servants. But for example, you have only 2 centers in Switzerland, you have nothing outside, and then you think about forming a farm, and you don't have devotees even for the temple. So I'm just saying, we should be practical, and then when the number of the devotees increases, then you do other projects or whatever someone likes. So devotee care means to care about people, means to sometimes forget about yourself, and means to tolerate them in order for them to, advance in their spiritual life. Don't push them. Don't give them the brahmachari rule book to the guys as soon as they come to the temple. I mean, sorry, but don't do it. If this person is inclined into the brahmachari life, then yes, of course. So, I mean, that's just my opinion. Everyone has their opinion, and the opinion also depends on the taste that you have. So, my husband and I, we have this kind of taste for people. We want them to feel like at home. We want them to feel comfortable. We want them to be really inspired in practicing Krishna consciousness, and we really try to care about people. And I don't know what's going on. Anyway, so that's just my opinion, but every leader has its own vision of things. But I just think we should be more open and more personal with people in Switzerland. And also, we have so much services, all of us, because there's not so many people here, and then we don't have time to engage with other people. We forget about them. People leave this temple, and what I have noticed, nobody mentions them anymore. So I think we should reflect on these things, how many people actually came to the temple already and left. and why did they leave, and how much actually do you take care of people who are here right now. There's so many devotees. There are like 300 or 400 devotees in Switzerland. Where are they? I mean, I'm just saying, oh, they should come to the temple and serve. Why? What are you doing for them so that they could come here? How do you make them feel? You know, what do you do to inspire them? Like, are you only concerned about your brahmacharya life, or you really care about people and you really want like people to gain Krishna consciousness and so on? And how much actually do you want to serve, or how much actually do you want to grab a position? So that's what I think. And it's a reflection also. This is not like that I think that some people do that. I'm just looking like, how do you say the tree is known by its fruits, or no? There's a saying. Palam, fal. No, that's not that one. Yeah, something like that. So I'm just saying, like, this is the result of this temple. It's empty. Okay, and even Sunday feasts for the past 3 Sundays, like, where are people? So that's just my question. Like, so, and also, I mean, book distribution is very nice, and I think that Sankirtan devotees are one of the most ecstatic devotees in our movement, but that's not enough. So when you distribute the book and the person comes to the temple, so what are you going to do then? That's the question. So, and of course, there's a balance where you have to also take care of yourself, because we are not King Gaia. We are not so pure. We can become that one day. We want to go to that level, but we are not there yet. But we try, and therefore you need this balance so that you don't burn out. There's so many people who are burned out as well. Yeah, and also, like, if you are burned out, ask yourself, what are you doing and why are you doing this? Because the person who is giving you so much service, it's not his fault, or it's not even like why are you accepting so many things? Like, and also, like, why are you doing the service? Like, do you love to do it? Like, for example, I mean, I have difficulties with book distribution, just to say this thing, and then I will be done. But for example, now I'm going to give you Nitya Seva. She likes book distribution, and she loves to go out, and she can be there for hours. And sorry, but I think that's very nice. So she will always do it. Nobody has to come and tell her to do it. And she can even overdo it, and she won't feel like, because she likes to do it. So you have to ask yourself, well, what do you have taste, and then do that. So these are like just my thoughts that about the devotee care. And devotee care is it has many segments of how to cultivate a society, how to cultivate a congregation. Also has to do with matchmaking as well. Taking care of the elderly people, taking care of the young people, the old people, thinking about what will people do when they have to die. So this is like devotee care, and we can have a whole nother class about that. But you have to start somewhere from the beginning, because we can't have all of these things. And just care for people, just be nice to them, and then they will want to stay in the temple, and they will want to do service. Like, for example, if I have to come here and be with someone I really don't like, and he's annoying me, or he's like criticizing me all the time and being rude to me or cold to me, like never speak to me, why would I go and do the service with the person? Like, it's just normal. Huh? For Krishna. But I can do other...
try to do like that's from my side I understand.
Yeah.
But then also we have to have his own desire, right? Like I feel like the devotees from outside.
Yeah.
It must be both sides, right? I understand. I also feel like we could do way better.
Yeah.
But then if you have a taste for service for the deities,
Yeah.
then you will still do it.
Yes, I agree with you.
So both sides, just the balance.
Yeah. Shikshashtakam, he said that we also do it for Krishna, which is true, because we develop a taste, and therefore we come here regardless of the externals, and we serve if we want to. We love deity worship, we do the deity worship, and yeah, that's exactly, it's similar to what I was saying. Like, if you love something, that's why you need to introspect and see. Even if, like, for example, if you come to the temple and don't want to come to the temple anymore, then you have to introspect with yourself what's with your Krishna consciousness. So in that sense, that's also true. So it's both.
Bad
Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah, that's true. But I said all this because it's mostly about new people. So a new person who maybe didn't have the opportunity to develop taste might not stay because of these things, because this person needs more. But then through time, it can, yeah. Yeah, so thank you very much. Sorry, I got fired up a little bit. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.